The British royal family is defined by a singular, unshakable doctrine. Never complain, never explain. It is a mantra of stoic silence that has preserved the monarchy through centuries of scandal, war, and social upheaval. But tonight, that silence has allegedly been shattered by the one person known for her absolute discipline and refusal to play media games, the Princess Royal Anne. Reports emerging from the inner circles of Buckingham Palace suggest that a decade-long dam has finally burst. Following the circulation of highly controversial images involving Meghan Markle in elite Mediterranean social circles dated long before her royal entry, Princess Anne has reportedly delivered a message to the family that is as brutal as it is devastating. Her words whispered behind closed doors, but now echoing through the halls of power were simple. The dossier exists, and we try to tell him. Breaking news tonight suggests that these shocking revelations are not news to the palace at all. Insiders claim that Princess Anne has confirmed the existence of a classified security vetting report from 2016, a document compiled by British intelligence that flagged the exact same strategic social placements and high-level Gulf connections the world is only now beginning to question. For years, Prince Harry accused his family of paranoia. He claimed they were blocking his happiness out of prejudice or tradition. But today, sources describe a man paralyzed by a terrifying realization in his Montecito home. He is beginning to understand that when his aunt warned him, she wasn't being cruel, she was being accurate. Tonight, we go beyond the headlines to open what insiders call the Anne Files. We will uncover why the Princess Royal reportedly refused to bend the knee to the narrative, what was truly hidden in the intelligence report handed to Harry before the wedding, and why the impossible math of the past was solved by the palace years ago. The warning was ignored, but the consequences have finally arrived. To understand the weight of the tears falling in Montecito tonight, we must travel back to the eye of storm. Autumn 2016. When Prince Harry first began dating Meghan Markle, the machinery of the British state began its work. Standard royal protocol dictates what is known as a Level 3 vetting by palace security officers for any commoner entering the direct line of succession's inner circle. Normally, this is a mundane formality, a routine check for outstanding debts, legal troubles, or criminal records. But with Meghan, sources suggest the vetting process triggered red alarms deep within the intelligence community almost immediately. The intelligence gathered didn't just show a charming Hollywood actress. It allegedly revealed a glaring contradiction that no amount of public relations could explain away. Princess Anne, known for her non-nonsense approach and her deep, quiet ties to the UK's security establishment, was reportedly the first senior royal to read the full file. What she saw was a timeline that defied logic. Between 2008 and 2012, Meghan Markle publicly described herself as a struggling actress, barely surviving the brutal economics of Hollywood. Her documented income came from minor acting roles, brief television appearances, and freelance calligraphy. Yet the surveillance data and travel logs in the dossier told a completely different story. The report allegedly placed this struggling actress on yachts worth tens of millions of dollars, attending exclusive gatherings in Monaco street tropes, and the Middle East events that cost more per night than most working actors earn in a year. Princess Anne looked at what analysts call the impossible math and asked the one question Harry refused to ask. Who paid? In the world of high-level security, there is no such thing as a free lunch, and there is certainly no such thing as a free Mediterranean cruise on a billionaire super yacht. And knew that struggling actresses do not casually float through elite international power spaces without significant financial backing. The dossier suggested that someone had covered the travel, someone had provided the access, and someone had facilitated her presence in rooms where the world's most powerful men conduct business. To the intelligence community, unexplained wealth or unexplained access is the single biggest indicator of a security compromise. Princess Anne reportedly viewed this not as a matter of class, but as a matter of sovereignty. If a future member of the royal family entered the institution with invisible debts to foreign entities or offshore power brokers, the monarchy itself could be compromised. This was the foundation of the confrontation that would change the relationship between aunt and nephew forever. And wasn't looking at a bride. She was looking at a security file that didn't add up. And as we are about to see, the more Harry tried to hide the report, the more the report began to manifest in reality. Princess Anne didn't need a crystal ball to predict the complications that would eventually befall the House of Windsor. She simply needed a calculator. While Prince Harry was captivated by a whirlwind romance, the palace quarters under Anne's watchful eye were reportedly focused on the impossible math of Meghan Markle's pre-royal life. To understand why the 2016 dossier was so explosive, we have to look at the financial forensics that allegedly triggered the MI6 red flags. The timeline in question is highly specific, 2008 to 2012. During these exact years, the public narrative presented to the world was that of a struggling actress, a hustler navigating the unforgiving terrain of Hollywood. Her official resume from this period lists minor acting roles, brief television appearances as a briefcase girl, and various pilots that never saw the light of day. In the brutal economics of Los Angeles, this profile describes a working-class actor, someone worrying about rent, health insurance, and the next audition. And yet, the Saudi dossier and the intelligence logs tell a story of a lifestyle that even A-list movie stars would hesitate to fund out of their own pockets. The surveillance data allegedly placed her in environments that were entirely inconsistent with her documented income. We're talking about private villas in Tuscany, high-stakes environments in Monaco, and the now infamous Mediterranean yacht circuit. This is where the story stops being about celebrity gossip and starts becoming a matter of national security. Let's ask the question plainly, just as Princess Anne reportedly did. Who paid? The math simply does not add up. Cable television residuals and freelance calligraphy do not fund summers in Porto Cervo. They do not bankroll the wardrobes required for elite international power spaces. Struggling actresses do not casually float through these circles without significant financial backing. In the eyes of British intelligence, unexplained wealth or unexplained access is the single greatest indicator of a security compromise. It suggests that an individual may be beholden to a benefactor whose interests are not aligned with the state. The dossier allegedly concluded that this wasn't a case of a girl simply getting lucky with a few invitations. The pattern spanned years and continents. This implies that what was received wasn't just hospitality. It was support. It wasn't just an opportunity. It was an investment. This is the terrifying reality that Princess Anne reportedly tried to explain to her nephew. When you see this level of investment from Gulf-connected elites and offshore power brokers, you must ask what the return on that investment is supposed to be. In the world of the ultra-wealthy, power never gives without expecting something in return. And understood the transaction. She suspected that Meghan wasn't just a guest on those yachts. She was a beneficiary of a system where access is the ultimate currency. To Harry, she was a self-made woman who had overcome the odds. To the palace, she was a woman potentially walking into the royal family with a massive invisible debt owed to foreign oligarchs. A debt that could be called in at any time. If the Mediterranean yachts were the stage, then intelligence analysts began to look for the director. For years, the mainstream media has painted Marcus Anderson merely as Meghan's best friend or a global consultant for the Soho House empire. However, in the classified pages of the 2016 vetting report, his role is allegedly viewed through a much darker lens. Sources claim that Princess Anne and the security team identified him not as a mere companion, but as a handler. To understand this distinction, we must look at the pivotal year of 2015, the year before Meghan met Harry. While the world thought she was simply a lead on the show, Suits intelligence reports suggest she was attending what some call the graduation ceremony of her social climbing career, the grand opening of Soho House, Istanbul. Istanbul sits at the literal and metaphorical crossroads of East and West. For the strategic social placement of an individual is the ultimate bridge between Hollywood obscurity and global power. It was here amidst the rooftop parties overlooking the Bosphorus that the connections mentioned in the Saudi dossier allegedly reached their peak. Sources whisper that Soho House Istanbul wasn't just a club opening. It was a marketplace of influence. Marcus Anderson, the global membership director, allegedly curated the guest list to ensure that talent mixed with capital. The dossier likely flagged that it was within these environments that Meghan was introduced to a specific network of Middle Eastern financiers and Gulf power brokers. In the world of intelligence, these are known as cultivated environments. You're not brought into these rooms by accident. You're brought in because someone believes you can serve a function socially, relationally, or strategically. This recontextualizes the entire origin story of the Sussex romance. We were told they met on a blind date in London, a serendipitous moment orchestrated by a mutual friend. But if we accept the premise of the security dossier, this wasn't a romantic setup. It was a placement. The theory suggests that Marcus Anderson didn't just introduce two single people. He allegedly executed a long-term strategy. He took a candidate who had spent years navigating elite transactional power spaces, someone who understood the hierarchy and knew how to read a room, and placed her directly in the path of the most vulnerable target in the British monarchy, the heir to the throne. Why does this leave Harry speechless today? Because it forces him to confront a devastating possibility that the very woman he thought he was saving had been professionally trained to charm him. The skills he admired, her intense listening, her ability to mirror his desires, her poise in high-pressure social situations were not just natural traits. They were, according to the dossier's theory, perfected during those years on the Mediterranean circuit and the nights in Istanbul. Princess and reportedly tried to warn Harry that Marcus Anderson was the bridge between a world of paid influence and the sanctity of the royal family. She warned him that bringing someone with these deep transactional ties into the heart of the monarchy was a ticking time bomb. To Harry, it was a fairy tale. To Princess, it was a breach of the perimeter. She saw that the blind date was the final step in a decade-long journey of strategic placement. And the proof wasn't just in the reports. It was about to be worn for the entire world to see. We have discussed the shadow manifests, the Istanbul connections, and the impossible math of a struggling actress's lifestyle. But skeptics, and perhaps Prince Harry himself back in 2016, might argue that rumors of yacht circuits and elite networking are just that, rumors. They are whispers in the dark, difficult to prove, and easy to dismiss as palace gossip. However, Princess allegedly pointed to one specific item in the Saudi dossier that transformed these whispers into hard, undeniable evidence. The proof hasn't been hidden in a vault. It has been dangling from a Duchess of Sussex's ears for years. It is time to talk about the Chopard earrings. This is the chapter of the story that turns theoretical intelligence into physical reality. Officially, these stunning chandelier diamonds worth an estimated £500,000 were described as a wedding gift. But in the world of high-stakes diplomacy and intelligence, gifts of this magnitude are never just gifts. When you look at the identity of the donor, the narrative of the innocent Hollywood outsider completely collapses. The donor was not a family friend. It was not a Hollywood producer or a lifelong mentor. It was Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the absolute ruler of Saudi Arabia. Let's apply the brutal logic of the 2016 dossier that Princess reportedly showed Harry. Why would one of the most powerful men on the planet, a man who sits at the pinnacle of global geopolitics, send a £500,000 personal gift to a former American cable TV actress he had supposedly never met? In the world of the Gulf elite, you do not give diamonds of that magnitude to a stranger. You give them to individuals who have been vetted, hosted, and perhaps, as the dossier suggests, employed within your social sphere. Intelligence analysts who have reviewed the profile of this gift suggest it fits a very specific and chilling pattern, the severance package. In the world of strategic social placement, when a regular presence in elite circles moves on to a permanent marriage, especially one of this global profile, the previous patrons often send a final high-value gift. It is a golden handshake. It is a thank you for years of discretion, attendance, and service within those closed invitation-only networking vessels. The dossier reportedly argued that these earrings were the return on investment that Princess had warned Harry about. They were a signal that the accounts were settled, but also a reminder of who had facilitated her rise. The horror inside Buckingham Palace reached a breaking point in 2018 during what is now known as the Blood Diamond controversy, signaling her true loyalties. To Anne, it was a brazen display. It proved that the Saudi connection wasn't just ancient history. It was an active physical allegiance that Meghan was willing to flaunt on the world stage while holding the hand of a British prince. To Harry, she claimed she had borrowed them. But to Princess Anne, who had read the reports on the Istanbul connection and the Mediterranean manifests, the earrings were the smoking gun. They were the undeniable link between the struggling actress of 2012 and the Duchess of 2018. They proved that the network didn't vanish when she met Harry. It followed her into the palace. And as Harry reportedly stares at the evidence today, he has to reconcile the wife, who claimed to be a humanitarian feminist, with the woman who wore the diamonds of a regime that his own family's intelligence services had warned him about. The tension between Princess Anne and Prince Harry didn't manifest as a public spat. It was a cold, quiet war of perspective. This brings us to the confrontation that reportedly broke the relationship between aunt and nephew forever. A meeting that took place far from the cameras, likely at Anne's private estate, Gatcombe Park. Princess Anne did not sit Harry down to discuss etiquette, fashion, or royal protocol. She did not approach the situation with the prejudice Harry would later claim in his memoir, Spare. According to palace insiders, she sat him down to talk about one thing: security risk. She reportedly laid the 2016 dossier on the table, the culmination of MI6, vetting, and financial forensics. She pointed to the term used by intelligence analysts to describe Meghan's pre-royal activities, strategic social placement, and warned him that the woman he loved fit a very specific professional profile. She explained that in the circles Meghan had frequented, individuals are not brought in by luck. They are brought in because they serve a function socially, relationally, or reputationally. Anne's warning was chillingly precise. She reportedly told him, "She hasn't just been dating Harry. She has been kept. And people don't keep you around in these circles unless you are useful." This was the prince's dilemma. Harry, blinded by what he believed was a destiny to save a victim of the British press, viewed the dossier not as protection, but as an insult. He saw a woman being persecuted for her past, and saw a beneficiary of a shadow market entering the heart of the British state. Harry's reaction was famously defensive. He reportedly accused his aunt of being cold and stuck in the past. He chose to bury the report. He ignored the receipts that proved her presence on the closed vessels of the Gulf elite. He chose to believe the struggling actress narrative because it fueled his hero complex. He wanted to be the knight in shining armor who rescued the damsel in distress, never realizing that the distress was a carefully curated backstory designed to appeal to his specific vulnerabilities, and reportedly warned him that by ignoring this vetting, he was walking directly into a trap. She saw that Meghan wasn't an outsider stumbling into the monarchy. She was a woman who understood social hierarchy better than Harry did, having served it in its most transactional forms for a decade. To Harry, the mantra was, "What Meghan wants, Meghan gets." And the reality was what the dossier says the dossier proves. This confrontation was the moment the Spare truly separated himself from the family. He didn't just choose a wife. He chose to reject the institutional intelligence that had protected the crown for centuries. He viewed Anne's logic as an attack on his happiness. But as he sits in Montecito today, looking at the newly leaked images that match the 2016 files perfectly, he has to face the most bitter truth of his life. Princess Anne wasn't trying to ruin his fairy tale. She was trying to prevent his destruction. She saw the invisible debt he refused to see, and she knew that eventually the people who had invested in the Duchess would come to collect. Harry thought he was the one doing the saving, but the dossier suggested he was actually the exit strategy. The hero complex has now turned into a terrifying realization. The aunt he rejected was the only one who told him the truth. In ancient Greek tragedy, there's a concept called anagnoresis. It is the critical moment of discovery, the exact second a character realizes the horrifying truth about their own life, and the choices that led them to disaster. For Prince Harry, isolated in the sprawling silence of his Montecito mansion, that moment is reportedly happening right now. To understand the depth of this wound, we must deconstruct Harry's psychology. For the last decade, Harry has built his entire identity around a single powerful narrative, the hero complex. He believed his wife was a victim, a naive, self-made woman thrown to the British wolves, unprepared for the rigidity of the palace and the cruelty of the press. He believed it was his divine duty to save her. Just as he felt he couldn't save his mother, he gave up his military titles, his birthright, and his family to be her knight in shining armor. But the confirmation of the 2016 dossier destroys that narrative completely. The realization is reportedly paralyzing. Meghan Markle didn't need saving. She was never the naive outsider she portrayed herself to be. If the intelligence reports are accurate, while Harry was worrying about her learning how to curtsy, Meghan had already spent years navigating social hierarchies far more dangerous and complex than Buckingham Palace. If she could navigate the high-stakes transactional world of Mediterranean super yachts and Gulf power brokers, dealing with a royal tea party with child's play, Harry is now forced to confront the sickening possibility that her naivety was a performance, and he was the only person in the room who didn't know it was an act. This realization forces him to look back at Princess, and with an agonizing new clarity. He remembers the warnings at Gatcombe Park. He remembers her pointing to the strategic social placement data. At the time, he called her prejudiced. He wrote in his memoir about the coldness of his family, painting them as villains who refused to accept his love. But today, as he looks at the undeniable timeline of the Mediterranean yacht nights, he has to swallow the bitterest pill of all. And was right. She wasn't trying to ruin his life. She was trying to prevent him from being the mark in a global confidence game. The silence coming from the Sussex camp today speaks volumes. Usually, when a couple feels attacked, their legal team is unleashed within hours. Statements are issued and sources close to the couple flood the media. But this time, there is a deafening radio silence. Harry knows what that silence means. It means the shadow manifests are real. It means the impossible math of the past has been solved, and there's no defense because the evidence is authentic. He is now trapped in the prince's dilemma. He has burned every bridge back to London. He publicly humiliated the very people and William and Charles who held the intelligence reports that could have protected him. He realizes now that he wasn't the rebel breaking free from a cage. He was a useful idiot. The final transaction in a decade-long business plan orchestrated by shadow handlers and funded by the very elite circles he claims to despise. He thought he was the love of her life, but the dossier suggests he was simply the exit strategy. The hero has become the victim, and the ant he rejected stands vindicated by history. As the curtain falls on this royal tragedy, we are left with a lesson that extends far beyond the gates of Buckingham Palace. The story of the 2016 dossier is not just about a scandal. It is a brutal study in the difference between cruelty and wisdom. In life, we often mistake the people who warn us for our enemies. We reject hard truths because they hurt our ego, and we embrace comforting lies because they feed our fantasies. Prince Harry wanted to believe in a fairy tale so badly that he demonized the only person, Princess, and who loved him enough to give him the reality check he desperately needed. He thought she was blocking his happiness. In truth, she was trying to block his destruction. From our perspective here, this is the ultimate tragedy of the spare. Harry spent years fighting for freedom from the royal goldfish bowl, only to realize he may have traded it for a shark tank. The royal family has stayed silent, not because they are weak, but because they knew that eventually the truth would do the talking for them. Today, that silence is deafening. The protection is over. The dossier is open. Now, I hand the gavel over to you, the jury of public opinion. This story raises a haunting question about redemption. Can a bridge burned this badly ever be rebuilt? Does Prince Harry owe Princess and a public apology for ignoring the warnings that could have saved him? Cast your vote in the comments below. Type sorry, and if you believe Harry needs to beg for forgiveness. Type 2 late if you think the betrayal of the family's trust is unforgivable. If you appreciate us digging into the files and the forensics that the mainstream media is often too hesitant to touch, please hit the like button and subscribe. The warning was ignored in 2016, but the lesson will last a lifetime. Thank you for joining us on this investigation. We will see you in the next briefing.